I don't know about you, but my feed has been flooded with this for the last couple of weeks. Hundreds of posts all shouting that the EU just forced Apple to bring back removable batteries on the iPhone. Headlines like "Battery swap is back" and "USA tech bends to EU." The whole vibe across thousands of those posts is that the slap era is over because Brussels said so, and Apple had no choice but to redesign the next iPhone around a removable back. That misinformation kind of frustrates me, so I went and read the actual law, and what I found is that the panic is wrong on basically every level. First of all, the law everyone is pointing out to doesn't take effect until February 2027, which means that this fall's iPhone lineup ships before the rule is even active. And when the rule does kick in, it doesn't require Nokia-style snap-off backs at all. But the bigger thing those posts are pointing at, that some EU regulation is quietly redesigning the iPhone in your pocket, that part is actually true. It's just been happening for a lot longer and to a lot more than just iPhones.
We are replacing this pile of chargers with just this.
The most visible example happened last Tuesday, April 28th, 2026. Every laptop sold in the European Union now has to ship with USB-C charging. Most people didn't notice it happening, and most people aren't supposed to. And USB-C is just one of these. The cookie banner you'll click through later today, the Wi-Fi connecting you to this video, the reason a generation of Xbox 360s melted in living rooms across the world, they all trace back to the same kind of decision. By the way, if you end up enjoying this video, subscribe, because why not?
Basically, when it comes to smartphones, the elephant in the room is Apple.
USB-C is the cleanest example because it happened recently, and you can see all the dominoes line up. In 2009, the European Commission got 14 of the world's biggest phone makers, including Apple, to sign a voluntary agreement to standardize on micro USB. Apple's compliance was creative. They shipped a tiny adapter that converted the iPhone's 30-pin connector to a micro USB, technically satisfying the agreement, and walked away. The voluntary deal expired in 2014.
You know, we've been in an argument over this one for well over 10 years.
The Commission tried again until it expired again.
The amount of cables and chargers produced and thrown away each year is simply unacceptable.
By 2019, the EU estimated that discarded chargers were generating around 11,000 tons of e-waste in Europe per year.
From the fall of 2024, all Europeans will need only one USB-type charger for small devices, and by 2026, the same charger will also become the norm for laptops.
So in October 2022, the Commission stopped asking nicely. They passed the Common Charger Directive. USB-C mandatory by December 2024 for phones, tablets, cameras, headphones, e-readers, handheld game consoles, a lot of things. And 18 months later, last Tuesday, the same rule extended to laptops. The iPhone 15 launched with USB-C in September 2023, the first non-lighting iPhone since 2012. Apple's marketing chief said on stage at Wall Street Journal's Tech Live a year earlier.
Obviously, we'll have to comply. We have no choice as we do around the world.
And what stuck with me is that companies almost never announce when a regulator changed their roadmap. They just ship the next product and let you assume it was their idea.
USB-C has become a universally accepted standard. So we're bringing USB-C to iPhone 15.
That one I was sort of aware of. The next one, though, I use every single day without thinking about it, is cookie banners. There has been a cookie banner on basically every website since 2018, and I've probably clicked through millions of them without, even asking why. The answer is GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation that came in force on May 25th, 2018. Almost overnight, every site started asking for consent. But here's the part I didn't know. GDPR doesn't actually require a cookie banner. The cookie banner is a side effect. The actual rule that demands consent for tracking is from an older directive called e-privacy from 2002. What GDPR did was make the consent standard much stricter. Pre-checked boxes don't count. Implied consent doesn't count. Consent has to be specific and informed. So companies build models.
Amazon has been hit with an $886.6 million European Union fine in violation of the EU's General Data Protection Regulation.
The fines under GDPR can hit 4% of global annual revenue, which is not a typo. American companies that don't strictly need to comply usually do it anyway, because building 2 versions of a website costs way more than one GDPR compliant version. There is a name for this. It's called the Brussels effect. The EU writes a law, multinationals adopt it globally, and it becomes the de facto worldwide standard without ever crossing an ocean. So if you're watching this in Texas or Toronto, you might have the legal data rights you didn't know you had just because the company holding your data has European customers. Then I went looking backwards, wondering how long this has been happening. I ended up in 2003. The EU passes a directive called ROHS, the Restriction of Hazardous Substances. It bans 6 materials from electronics. The most consequential one is the lead in solder. Lead is a neurotoxin that accumulates in groundwater from e-waste, so the case for banning it is real. The problem is that the replacement lead-free solder melts around 30 degrees hotter, is more brittle, and the transition was rough. From 2005 to 2010, hardware reliability across consumer electronics took a massive step backwards, and the most famous casualty was the Xbox 360. Microsoft launched the 360 in November of 2005. Within a year, consoles were dying in extraordinary numbers.
CNBC's Jane Wells live in Los Angeles with how the 360's problems are heating up, literally.
Some faulty Xbox 360s are literally melting down.
The error code, 3 flashing red lights around the power button, became the red ring of death.
Red thing come up, we can't play, what's going on? It was, oh my God, it was terrible.
By July 2007, Microsoft had sold 11.6 million Xbox 360s. Independent estimates put the failure rate as high as 23.7%, the kind of number that could end a hardware company. So Microsoft took a charge of up to $1.15 billion against earnings to extend warranties for 3 years and pay for repairs. Nvidia took $196 million charge in 2009 for similar failures in GPUs that ended up in MacBook Pros, Dells, and HPs alike. Honestly, going through those numbers was the moment I had to stop and process the whole thing. And the example I haven't told you about yet is the one that started all of this. The iPhone removable battery panic.
Smartphones are going to look a little bit different, I think. That could change everything. So we might go back to sort of having larger phones.
When I read what's actually in the law instead of on social media, the story got really wide. There is a clause aimed at things Apple has been doing for years. There is also a loophole that means the iPhone might not have changed at all. We'll get to that in a moment. While we're on the subject of decisions being made about you that you didn't get to weigh in on, there is a version of you online right now that you didn't create. Your name, your address, phone numbers, details about your family, all available to anyone who decides to look. That's how scam calls, phishing emails, and identity theft start, with information that shouldn't be public in the first place. Try Googling your name, and you'd be surprised how much comes up. Removing all of that manually takes hundreds of hours, and it keeps coming back. That's what Incogni handles for you. You sign up, and they work to remove your personal information from across the internet automatically. But what really sets them apart is custom removals on their unlimited plan. You Google yourself, find a site exposing your data, paste the link into Incogni, and their privacy experts take care of the rest. It goes way beyond what any automated service covers. They're also the first and only data removal service independently verified by Deloitte, so you know it actually works. You can try it risk-free for 30 days at incogni.com/thisise and use my code ThisIsE for 60% off an annual plan.
The EU will be introducing new laws regarding recycling phone batteries.
Yeah, the EU has made a ruling that by 2027, all smartphones should have a replaceable battery.
Okay, so back to battery regulation. The European Commission published official guidance in February 2025. Article 11 says that portable batteries have to be removable by an adult with no specific training using commercially available tools.
Imagine being able to replace the battery of your cell phone, computer or tablet yourself without difficulty.
Think screwdrivers and prying tools that you can buy at any hardware store, and nothing proprietary, no thermal energy or solvents, and nothing that can damage the device or the battery itself. So far, reasonable. But here's the part nobody covers. The rule explicitly says that manufacturers cannot use software to block a battery swap. This is the practice known as parts pairing, where you install a non-genuine battery and the device disables features. It is now prohibited. That single clause is aimed at making sure you can get your phone repaired anywhere except at the manufacturer's own service center. There's also an exception. Devices with batteries that retain 80% capacity after 1000 full charge cycles and have IP67 or higher waterproofing do not require user-removable batteries at all. They just need professional repair access. The iPhone 15 and later are IP68 rated. Apple's designed the battery to retain 80% at 1000 cycles since the iPhone 15. So there is a real chance that the iPhone, the device this whole panic is about, qualifies for the exemption and doesn't have to change at all. The iPhone 16 and 16 Plus already use a system Apple calls electrically induced adhesive debonding. You connect a 9-volt source to the 2 contact points and the adhesive loosens in about 60 to 90 seconds. That's a professional repair workflow. So the panic was wrong about the date, wrong about the design, and quite possibly wrong about whether the iPhone has to change at all. Okay, so last example is one I've already taken a swing at on this channel. A few weeks ago in my MacBook Pro M5 review, which I'll link at the end of this one, I called something. In fact, I can't even control my iPhone from my Mac because of stupid EU regulations. Specifically, the reason iPhone mirroring doesn't work in Europe. A viewer pushed back pretty politely actually, and doing this research I had to reconsider that take. Not the frustration is real. iPhone mirroring isn't an isolated case for me. Living in Europe, there's always some feature that doesn't arrive on time or doesn't arrive at all. Meta AI on Ray-Bans, for example, or live activities on the Mac, SharePlay screen sharing, RCS for messages, call screen on the Pixel. Pick almost any new tech feature and there's a real chance I either don't have it or I'll get it years after everybody else. So when I call the iPhone mirroring blocking a stupid EU regulation, that's where the heat came from. But the framing was off. The Digital Markets Act, the DMA, came into full force in March 2024.
Today, the European Union fined Apple and Meta a combined nearly $800 million. This is the first enforcement of the Digital Markets Act.
It targets a specific list of companies that EU calls gatekeepers. Think Apple, Google, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, ByteDance, and Booking. The rule requires interoperability across the board. When a gatekeeper builds a feature connecting to devices, they have to make those APIs available to other companies or competitors too. Apple says if we build iPhone mirroring on a Mac, the DMA forces us to expose those APIs to any laptop or any device. So Apple launched iPhone mirroring everywhere except in the EU. Same with the Apple Intelligence at first, delayed to iOS 18.4 in April 2025. Same with live translation on AirPods Pro 3, delayed to iOS 26.2. The EU's reading is the opposite. Apple is gold-plating companies to make sure EU users complain to Brussels. They're using their European customers as leverage, and honestly, both readings are potentially true. The DMA does create real engineering complexity. Apple also has obvious commercial incentive to make compliance look as inconvenient as possible. As of this month, May 2026, iPhone mirroring is still not available in the EU. So when I called it a stupid regulation back then, I was reacting to a real frustration, but only seeing one side of it. You see, there's a few patterns hiding underneath all of this. The first is the Brussels effect. The EU writes a rule, the world adopts it, because compliance is cheaper than splitting your product. There's also the California effect, the same thing inside the US. California writes emissions rules, car makers comply nationally because the state is too big of a market to ignore. And the second pattern is that every regulation is the same kind of trade. A small cost spread across a lot of people to address a concentrated harm caused by a few. The funniest example might be the EU's tethered bottle cap directive. Since July 2024, plastic bottles in Europe come with caps that stay attached because bottle caps are top items found in beach cleanups. There is a meme going around now of Europeans abroad pressing the cap against their nose just to feel normal again. The third pattern, by the way, is the one that I find most interesting. Sometimes regulation creates an industry instead of constraining one.
We're moving more towards the former and away from the latter approach. And I think that's good precisely because it provides the marketplace with the flexibility and the options to innovate, develop new technologies.
In 1985, the FCC, America's spectrum regulator, set aside specific radio bands for unlicensed use. No license required, just rules about transmit power. That single decision is the reason Wi-Fi exists. And Bluetooth as well. So cordless phones, garage door openers, wireless mice, a multi-trillion-dollar industry sits on top of an FCC choice from 40 years ago to leave certain spectrum free. Most of the conversation around regulation treats it as a constraint on innovation. But sometimes the constraint is the innovation, the thing the rule was supposedly going to kill. What I keep coming back to is that iPhone post that started all of this. It's wrong. The next iPhone isn't coming apart in anyone's hands. But the bigger thing those posts are pointing at, that the technology we hold in your hands is being shaped by regulators we've never heard of, that's real. It's been true for a long time and we just stopped noticing. The cookie banner that I'll most likely, check later today is from 2002. The reason a generation of Xbox 360s broke was a directive in 2003. The Wi-Fi connecting you most likely to this video exists because of the FCC decision in 1985. None of that was Apple's idea or Samsung's or Google's. We live inside a consequences of decisions made by people we don't even know, in offices we'll never visit, on timelines that span decades. And we most likely don't see it happening. Because of that, public figures and CEOs take a lot more heed than they probably deserve, and I actually realize that now. It's easy to blame the person who walks on stage and says, "Good morning," for a compromise made in a quiet room full of regulators years before, just so we can get what we were promised. The goal of this video isn't to tell you whether the EU is good or bad. The goal is just to see it, for the first time. And once you do, every product launch and every feature delay starts to read differently. You ask a second question, why this and who decided? Honestly, where I keep landing on all of this is that I can't mirror my iPhone, but at least I'll never lose my bottled water cap. I've linked the M5 video I called out earlier right here, plus the recent foldables episode for you to check out. Like and subscribe to the channel, as well as my newsletter, and as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. This is E, over and out.